In typical Travis fashion, I totally forgot to check the microphones. Let's hope they're working. Anyway, we have Travis Carter, Edge Radio Australia, Derek Whitaker, all the way from Blue Sky Factory. He's got a new website, bluskyfactory.com. Make sure you check it out. He's got some awesome shit on there, and we got an amazing show today. Derek, why don't you lead us in while I do the quick double check on the good old sort book to make sure that we're actually going live?
You do that. We got some interesting things that have developed over the past week. Some big security concerns when it comes to crypto, particularly. What happened was on Wednesday, the 29th of July, 594 Bitcoin were taken from 500 wallets in 15 minutes.
That's a lot of money.
Roughly 38 million US.
So it's about 50 million Australian.
Yeah. According to this report, there were single signature wallets that were targeted, one private key controlling the funds, and the attacker was able to reconstruct private keys because they had key generation process that was flawed in the cold card hardware wallet made by CoinKite.
Yep.
And that basically was used during seed generation, may have been insufficient, and leaving the resulting private keys very, very vulnerable. And those using a BIP39 passphrase reported to be at minimal risk. So what that really tells you is people who have parked their crypto in hard wallets for a very long time and hadn't updated their software and put in more security measures were very vulnerable.
Okay, so there's a lot of people in the world of crypto, they'll have like USB sticks and things like that with their crypto on it. How safe were those people?
Well, it was only attacked under the one wallet, so it's not like all of them were attacked.
So as someone with minimal amount of Bitcoin, should I be concerned about this?
If you've got a lot of crypto assets on any kind of device, then it should be an all concern that we've got to be vigilant to keep your security up.
So great segue here, because blueskyfactory.com does actually do a crypto course to help teach people about this, the risks associated with it, so you can make an informed choice. So blueskyfactory.com, the link's scrolling across the top of the screen now. Anyway, so for people who have been attacked, is there any way for them to get their money back, or is it done and dusted? Sorry, too bad.
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because one, they've got to find out the perpetrator. I mean, this is not the only case that happened over the last week. Okay, there was another one that happened in relation to those who stake XRP. Now, there's a company called Firelight that do this.
So I've just put the news.com.au article up on the screen here. So major Bitcoin floor sees wallets drained to 50 million as price plummets. So I think this is really going to impact on the trust, I suppose, for Bitcoin. I think they will bounce back, but I think this might.
Well, it's not so much Bitcoin; it's the cold hard wallet issue. That's the thing. The asset itself, that it is what that is. But it shows how valuable that asset has become, where people will go to such great lengths. The second one was very much what I believe an AI generated website where people have been arrested in South Korea.
So I've just got that story up here now. Did you want me to read it?
Yeah, go for it.
So Seoul police arrest 3 people over a fraudulent XRP staking platform that took about 3.4 million XRP from 71 victims with roughly 27.3 billion won. So the won is the Korean currency, so that works out about $19 million. I'm assuming that's USD, reaching the operator's wallet. So this is what actually went into their wallets. The site impersonated the Flare network and FXRP projects, timed to their launch, and a 4th suspect is overseas under the Interpol Red Notice, police said. So that's coming from the Korean police and XRP.
Yeah. I mean, I actually looked at that one. I almost fell for it too, in terms of how good it was. The website itself was just so correct in terms of the accuracy, in terms of mimicking the real site. What got me on the alert was, hang on a second, as you progress through these things, you look at it, and in context, I've been doing a lot of AI programming lately, and with that, you've got to approve things when it comes to coding particularly. And so I've gotten into this habit of just quickly approving things. And I thought, hang on, I got to stop here at the last second. It wasn't doing what I had gone there for. The intention was wrong. I had gone there to claim rewards, and it was wanting to access those assets within that wallet. And I was like, whoa, time out. And I went back went back to checking it out in terms of how long the website actually been up. I found it had only been up for 2 days.
Yep.
That was a big warning.
Mother falling for something like that. I could see my mum falling for it. Hell, I even nearly fell for it. It's just when I went to click on it, the URL was different. That's the only thing that gave it away. And now you can also mask the URLs as well. So
I've had to, even in other applications that I'm using, put in 2-factor authentication just to tighten up my own security.
Yeah, you have to have it.
Because it's just getting, while it's inconvenient because you go, oh, it slows me down, it gets annoying sometimes, particularly if you walk away from the computer and you want to log back in, you're going to go through the rigmarole of logging back in. It's like, but with it becoming so advanced now, you're going, what do you want? Spend hours trying to recover, or in the case of crypto, you may never recover it. It's gone once it's gone.
And I hate to say it, like I can understand the argument for biometrics, for passwords like fingerprints, eye scans, facial recognition, all that sort of stuff, because they're going to be, I think, the key to a lot of our stuff. So I don't like it. I think it's stupid we have to go there, but I can understand the argument.
You know, the weakness about that, that's always crossed my mind is, what if the holder of that account passes away?
Spot on.
And the relatives want to get access to it and pass on those assets to the next generation. That's a big problem when it's all biometrics.
And that's where having really great will structured and all that sort of stuff set up is really important. But a lot of deaths aren't planned.
Exactly. And the problem with you may have that on paper in the wills, but if it's biometrically the gateway, how do you get, the will doesn't count for anything really on the blockchain. What does it matter?
Yep. And you can't talk to someone as well.
Exactly.
So, anyway, so I get it. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like the fact that we are going down that path, but I think there's a lot of, doesn't matter what system we have, there's going to be pros and cons. And that's why, again, I'd much prefer username, password, 2-factor authentication, get sent text message to my phone. But like, I was talking to Microsoft, so our IT guy. Microsoft will no longer send you a text message for your 2-factor authentication. Okay. It has to go to an email because it's costing them too much money in SMSs.
Is that right?
So they're like, no, we're not doing it anymore. So they've phased all of that out. So there's a lot of things coming up. A lot of things are changing. And this, again, highlights how important AI is going to be moving forward, especially for protecting yourself from scammers, protecting your accounts, having access into different accounts, just protections in general. Remember, AI is a tool. It is not a devil. It's a person that codes it and tells it what to do. That's the evil person. So,
yeah, it's the heart behind the technology that's the issue. But gosh, you be vigilant. Think. Be slow about this. Is this really coming from the right source? What's the intent behind this message? Do they really have my best interests at heart? Correct. Do the URLs match up, or are they fake? You know, all that stuff is really critical moving forward, because the graphics are just getting better and better.
Yep. Exactly. So moving on, the next one.
Yeah.
Japan and America. God, that's interesting.
It's a fascinating one, isn't it? Because basically the Japanese yen has been dropping in value over the last few weeks. And the United States has stepped in and in terms of the Treasury and said, we'll buy a bunch of the Japanese yen. They sold off some euro to do it, to help bolster the falling value of the yen. Now, you think, well, why would the United States do that? Now, Trump comes out and says, you know, we want to help the Japanese, and
that quote was hilarious.
They're our friends. And look, admittedly, they are great friends. The Prime Minister of Japan and Trump get on very, very well.
You got to remember, most of the previous presidents of Japan and Trump as a person, not president of the United States, have always got along really, really well. So have a look at that infamous time where he was feeding the goldfish. And like the media had a crack at him, like, no, that's how they do it in Japan.
Right. So, but I think what the underlying issue really is you look at how important the Japanese yen is to the world economy. Because if it falls too much, or if there's instability in its currency, that has repercussions for the entire globe. And so, this is the Japanese reverse carry trade we're talking about here.
The other way to look at this one, which I don't know if you've actually looked at this one yet, who's the biggest player in Australasia?
In terms
of that
of
region, there's like 20 countries there, or the Asian countries.
Well, Japan buys. You mean Japan buys a lot of Australian bonds?
Who's the biggest trader all around? It's China.
Right.
Okay. Who's China's second rival? Japan.
Right.
Does America really want a weakening Japan when a rising China is right there?
I see what you're saying.
So I think America will go out of their ways, first of all, to poke the panda bear, but also to make sure that the land of the rising sun stays as strong as possible, because they are actually if you have a look at, like, let's say a war does break out, what's the first set of islands that don't get attacked? Japan.
Yeah, well, or Taiwan.
Yeah, which is on the south.
That's the interesting part. What you just highlighted there is the middle ground of Taiwan there, which has 50% manufacturing of the world's microchips.
Yep. Now the other one as well, China's also stated that there's a lot of like military blockades around Taiwan, like no one's allowed to go there. So Japan regularly sends their ships through that blockade to poke fun at China. So I think Japan's in one of those situations where they are at the forefront. If a war does break out, they're going to get attacked. I think Taiwan will be first and Japan will be a very close second. So Japan has openly backed Taiwan. America is openly backing Taiwan. And you'll find as you go further out, all the different island nations like the Philippines, Vietnam, as well as another one, have all openly backed America and Taiwan in that situation. So the only way for China to get out is to actually go through Japan. And if Japan's got a weakening economy, they can't defend themselves as well. And I think it's more of a military and an economic side of things. America must have a really strong Japan. So
I think that's a great point. I've also been looking from an economic perspective and saying what a lot of traders have been doing is borrowing really cheap money, which is the yen, and then taking that because the interest rate's so low on borrowing the yen, and then taking it and putting that into other investments. Now, the problem with that is then they sometimes will use bank margin on top of that investment, right? So you're leveraged even more. And when you're getting into industry type money, I mean, you can leverage in some brokerage accounts up to 30 times. It's massive what you can do.
Well, FXCM was doing 100 to 1.
There you go. So when there's a wobble in the market, right, with the Japanese yen back at the base, that has repercussions because suddenly, to avoid those margin calls, you've got to sell off assets and pay down if you can't get more money in. And so when you're doing that I'm not talking about the mum and dad retailer here. We're talking about banks, big hedge fund institutions who leverage that much. Then that causes major wobbles in the market because when they're selling assets off to meet those margin calls, that can have a real snowball effect on a massive sell-off and potential crash. So I think it's in the United States' interest to have a stable yen as well.
So the other one you also got to look at as well, I haven't checked the figures since before COVID, so these stats are a little bit out of date. I think I'm like 99% sure it's going to be more. Per day, they were trading $1.3 trillion between the American currency and the Japanese currency on a daily basis on the currency exchanges. So they're a huge player on the global economy. If they go down, they don't bring a lot of people down with them. So I think this is more a regulating effect from America as well, especially with all the problems that they're having with the Iran war, the problems with what Israel's doing at the moment, then also Ukraine versus Russia. There's a lot of it like unstableness, instability. And a lot of people are unsure of what's going on. So securing this sort of thing is really going to help out the global economy as a whole.
What's interesting too, Travis, is that as we are merging into a new financial system, we literally are, and most people can't see this. It's behind the scenes. It will not get mainstream media coverage. What we're seeing in this space is Japan has set itself up for that new economy. It's one of the most advanced nations in that space. And so it's going to be very interesting how Japan fluidly transitions to a new economy. It's already been planning this for a very long time. The United States is being held up with things locked in the Senate and the debates between the Republicans and Democrats over the Clarity Act, which will change the way cryptocurrency operates and gives clarity to all the crypto operators in the United States. But Japan's already set up there and passed an act that was the equivalent of the Clarity Act in their own space, as did South Korea just a few weeks ago.
So another one which a lot of people don't know about, and I know this one intimately because I'm involved in it quite a lot, is actually a lot of the American companies that are trying to do the crypto things, but they can't actually fund everything through Panama. So because the Panama banking system has already have an onboarding system where you go directly from your fiat currency straight into the cryptocurrency with no exchange rates or anything like that. So most of the banks in Panama already do that on an institutional level, and it's already rocking. You can pay, you go to the shops and say, yeah, I'll pay with whatever. So they're already doing it. So
I'm also noticing companies like Stripe are starting to roll that out in the US where you can take a stable coin.
They don't have a choice. They have to keep up with what the other countries are doing, especially like Wise, Resolute. A lot of companies are already flying that way. So
yeah, I think what's been holding them back is the legislation and the licensing, because these companies, because they operate in financial products, have to have a license to do so.
Because your American accent when it comes through is hilarious. So yeah, anyway, so I'm actually really excited about what's happening with Japan, because our next maybe mission, mission that we don't look at. I really want to get some Japanese property.
Okay.
So if the currency has been dropping as it is, and pretty much what means that going into the Japanese market is going to be really beneficial for especially Australians, Americans, and people from the UK. You can buy 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses with a hot spring for about $35,000. So it's stupid cheap. I think a lot of Japan's policies lately has been around building the population back up, because only 3 cities were actually growing in population. The rest were going down.
Right.
So I think now's a really good opportunity to start looking at Japan. And again, do your due diligence first. Don't take my word for it. And just have a look at what the opportunities are there. Because remember, Japan has earthquakes. Properties can have problems on them. So due diligence, super important, but there's definitely a buying opportunity.
I would also say that when you do operate an international property syndication, it's not like owning property in your own neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely not.
Totally different game. There are so many time factors and cultural factors that come into play, and political factors that come into play. So you've got to be very aware of that, go in with your eyes open, and recognize that different cultures don't regard property as you might as an Australian. You think that's valuable. Some cultures look at it more as a commodity, in terms of, hey, or consumable, I should say, in terms of, I live there, I consume it, like a hotel. You stay in a hotel, you want all the perks, soaps, and all this sort of stuff, and then you leave, right? So, and you leave your dirty towels on the floor for the cleaner to do that. You've got to be aware different cultures treat property very differently.
Japan is arguably the paramount country is who you know, not what you know. If you haven't set foot in front of a real estate agent, they won't even take an offer from you. They have to have met you face to face before they'll even allow you to enter the market. So there's a lot of that you need to work through as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about the Japanese market. So probably more excited than the American market at the moment, to be honest with you. But yeah. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And to round off the show, because I'm trying really, really hard, because Aaron's always annoying us saying we go overboard, like literally nearly every single show we do. Actually, we're way ahead of time. So how you been, Derek?
Let me lie on the couch and tell you about my mother. Yeah, no, good. Good. What's really interesting is we were having this conversation on the way in about property in Australia. So we've been talking about property overseas.
Let's bring it home, Pig. Bring it home.
Look, the prices are dropping in Australia, with the exception of being Darwin at the moment. And auction clearances are dropping. I mean, that's a big thing, not so much in the West, but more over East, in terms of where that's going. The clearance rate has dropped. And yeah, it's not surprising in some regards, because of the recent boom we have had. And that's kind of normal market fluctuation to some extent when things cool off a bit. However,
this is not a normal cooling off.
No,
this is nasty.
The reason it's gone up is really interesting. Supply and demand, with immigration being at the levels that it is. And I think a lot of people were moving into state as well, which is affecting property prices, where people were, like in Sydney,
they just
couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford a normal house. So let's say a family member passed away and inherited a house. You couldn't even, because a lot of people don't know this, but your rates are actually calculated on what the rental value of the property is. So all of a sudden you've got this house that you just can't afford to even maintain yourself because the price is so bad. So what they do, they sell it, come to WA where it's a lot cheaper, or south down to Tasmania, South Australia, Queensland. So they used to call it the big migration, but at the moment it's just absolutely nuts. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, but I think a lot of people need to be very, very careful, especially with bank foreclosures on loan to value ratios.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably more in tune with what's happening on the property market than I am. I look more at international markets, but it's been really fascinating to see what the property sales are and how many are listed. You were pointing that out to me as we were coming in.
Particularly in units in lower socioeconomic areas. Yeah,
I mean, you look at how many houses and units and land are listed for sale. This week, let's say in Perth, for instance, there's 6,784. 4 weeks ago, there's 6,184. That's a big increase in 4 weeks.
Well, wait until last year.
And then, last year at this time, there were 3,292. So we're over doubled in terms of the availability of surplus of properties. What does that say to you? That it's now swinging to more of a buyer's market. The politicians are going, listen, this is great for those wanting to get first homes, but I'm going, look,
no,
I don't think so, because this is the cost of living isn't matching, and people are trying to, keep their heads above water. But it's not the same. You can't spin that on that.
Yeah. So a couple of you've got the stats there. I was showing you on earlier. Yeah. So pull up for me, if you don't mind, what areas in WA are the main places where they're being sold?
North of the river, you're looking at Yokine,
Yep. So workers area.
Yeah, 13. Perth downtown 9. Morley 8.
Yep.
East Perth 8. South of the river, you're looking at Baldivis 22, which that smashes all those suburbs. Belmont 18, Wellard 11, and Armidale 10. So the stats as far as south of the river are a lot higher.
New sales going onto the market. So let's look at those areas. Armidale is a workers area, lower socioeconomic area. We've got Belmont, a historical workers area. It's getting a little bit ritzy now, but young professional workers area. We had East Perth in there as well. So a lot of units are in East Perth, same as Perth. So small units, 1 and 2 bedroom units, especially around the universities. South of the river, what was the other ones there?
Baldivis was the biggest.
Again, a tradies area. That has always been a tradies area, and it always will be. Very strong labour stronghold. What else we got?
Wellard.
And so Rockingham, a fancy Rockingham. So all the areas you're looking at there, they're first owners area, there's tradie belts, younger professionals area is where they can get their first home. Now, the reason this is also important, when you start going into your second and third property and you start buying your investment property, generally your first investment property is going to be way less than what your actual family home is. So those areas there, you're probably looking around the $600,000-$700,000 mark for the houses. They're very high rental areas, so a lot of investors are in that area. So what that tells me is a lot of investors are going, if I haven't got the negative gearing on my property and I'm going to get nailed for stamp duty, sorry, not stamp duty, capital gains tax, I'm out. People are pulling out.
You've got to remember the negative gearing doesn't kick in. It's grandfathered in. It's from that May date that they announced it on the Treasury, the Treasury announcement. So, I mean, I don't think that's flowed in.
I think it's really important to explain the negative gearing to a lot of people because they don't really get it. So it's purely money in versus money out. So a lot of people who run businesses and stuff like that, they go from tax return to tax return. And that's when negative gearing really kicks in. So let's say you've paid $45,000 over the year for a house and you've earned, say, $55,000 for the house. But then all of a sudden you go take into additional interests and there's all these other things, and that turns into being a $65,000 expense for the house. So you've got a $10,000 surplus straight away.
It's the holding cost of the asset.
So then what happens is the government will then turn around and give you a kickback because it's negatively geared. You take that directly off your taxable income. So on average figures, you'll probably get a $3,000 tax return straight away. A lot of people will hold off things like paying off their credit card, putting extra money into their mortgages until they get their tax returns. They clear everything out, then they start again for the next 12 months. If you all of a sudden turn around and you're going, right, the house market has been going up roughly 10% per annum. So every year, your rent is also going up roughly the same amount. If all of a sudden you're earning more money on that house than what you're actually getting back from the tax man, what a lot of people are doing, and they're going, right, let's take the equity out of that property and let's go buy another one. So every single property they have is negatively geared, and when they hit that positively geared point, they'll take the equity out, buy another property. That's been the standard investment strategy for the last 20 years. All of a sudden, these people who are negatively geared up to their gills, they're not getting that kickback every year. So they're like, I can't afford to keep these houses. I've got to make them positively geared. How do you do it? Either pump in your own cash or sell a couple of the properties off, put them on the market, take your equity from that, disperse it over the other properties, make them all positively geared because there's no benefit in having them negatively geared anymore.
Right. And the banks like it more too.
Lower risks.
And so the banks are they're probably looking at the economy and going, all right, the things that are happening with the Japanese yen, could that cause a wobble of the market? Can people keep affording their homes at the debt levels that they're doing? The risk here is particularly for the property investors, but more the developers.
No, the biggest risk is first homeowners coming into the market because the government's going to go, oh, you only need 3%. Okay, if the market's dropping, let's say you lose 10% over the next 12 months on their house price because it's just been flooded with so many houses. Let's say you buy a house for $700,000.
You're talking about the equity in there.
So a lot of people don't know this. In all your mortgage documents, there's a thing called a loan-to-value ratio, which is how much did you borrow versus the value of the property. If that loan-to-value ratio drops to 120%, so you owe 20% more than what the asset's worth, the bank can foreclose that property immediately. You don't have, even if you've never missed the payment, they can just take the house straight off you immediately. So turning around, and especially in a declining market, to say, oh yeah, you only need 3%, you're playing with folly. I dread to see how many first homeowners don't get the houses taken off them. I really hope it doesn't happen, but it's something you have to take into account. A small deposit isn't always a good thing. And the Australian property market, I think for the first time in a long time, will actually go backwards, not forwards.
Couple that with, of course, the fertility rate that's happening in Australia at the moment. It has dropped. Now, why do you think that? What's that got to do with that? Well, population growth is often an indicator of where the economy is going, and also affects immigration levels. What's happened for the first time that the projected fertility rate in Australia for 2026 is 1.77 children per woman. That's a slight decline from previous years, and it's of course below the replacement level. You know, of having 2 children per woman.
Well, people just can't afford to have kids. It's so expensive.
And that's the interesting part about all of this. Where are we going as a nation if our fertility rate is dropping and our cost of living is going up? Because you couple that with the fuel prices, excise being taken away in the last day or two.
Well, no, last night. So fuel went up 17 cents.
So per litre, that's a big expense for a lot of people. So again, I think people are waking up socially and wanting social change, which is putting political pressure on our leaders and parties as they are. And it's really interesting, where is this all going? Because at the end of the day, if people can't put food on their table, if they can't afford a roof over their heads, and it's restricting how many children they want to have and bring into the world, then this is a bit of a wake-up call going, we want social change. And if they're seeing a lot of the money coming from overseas, it's got massive social implications for us.
The problem is, getting full political now, I don't think a lot of people actually realize how bad it's getting in Australia politically. I'm not talking financially, but politically. They just don't have the time to sit down and go, okay, what's the best policy for me and my family? Is Labor better? Is Liberals better? Is One Nation better? Is the Nationals better? Like, they can't really, they don't have the time to do that. On top of it, the ability to get the information that they need about it. Like, how often has One Nation voted with the Greens? Over 70%.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that sort of stuff. So when Pauline Hanson was first in, everyone's going, oh, Greens and One Nation are total polar opposites. Then why are they voting nearly 80% of the time on the same way? So there's a lot of things like that that people don't understand. So knowing what someone comes out and says, all right, this is what we want, this is how we're going to get it, these are what our policies are going to be, then seeing what they actually do in the House of Parliament is also 2 totally different things as well. So people don't have time to do that research. That's why I've got so much love for people like Joel Jamal from Turning Point Australia. We've got a poster here somewhere that shows all the seats in Parliament, what seats are at risk and all that sort of stuff. So knowing where you get this information and who is trustworthy enough to give you the actual truthful information, I think that's really, really critical. And I hate the fact that the education department doesn't teach this at schools.
Look, when it comes to wealth creation, politics is one aspect of it. There's also the aspect of economies and what's going there. So we've covered a lot of that today. There's also interest rates, and that really plays in as far as the property market is concerned big time. Those 3 factors, but also tying in with people mindsets in relation to how they want to create wealth. Are they entrepreneurial? And what has happened a lot from a political standpoint is a lot of entrepreneurs are just ticked off. They're going, forget it, too high taxes, too much red tape. And when these pass proposals in terms of the Treasury budget, we're out of here. We'll see you later. And they've got the means to get out of here. And so I think it's time for, people talk about, oh, we need to tax the rich. No, it's the rich that take on the risk so that you can have a job. Is a big, big factor that needs to be considered here.
So I think the term "we need to tax the rich" needs to be addressed. As someone who's not rich, I'm nowhere near rich. So we still, I won't say paycheck to paycheck, but investment to investment is what we live off. It is not expensive to go offshore these days. If you know where you're looking for it, like for example, Panama, if you are only looking to set up a business offshore, and instead of running your sales or your crypto or your investment accounts, instead of running it through Australia and dealing with the capital gains tax and all that sort of stuff, just set it up in Panama. You can do it for about $10,000 US.
Get advice for this. So before you go
obviously, all this
like
is get advice.
Absolutely. You got to work with the professionals on that.
A lot of, to set up the vessel to allow you to go overseas, and like I'm just using Panama, for example, because that's the one I know intimately, it is not expensive to get over there if you know someone who's already there. Going to other places like Malta, the islands off the Isle of Man and all that sort of stuff, they can be very, very expensive to get into. Greece is insanely expensive to get to. All these tax havens, generally are very expensive, but when you start looking out South America or through Asia, it's not hard these days. The information is very easy to get a hold of. A lot more accountants are getting more and more knowledgeable about this because more and more Australians are actually looking into it, saying, hey, I need help here. I'm being strangled by the Australian government. I need out. So what's happening is, even slightly, like for example, I was running a couple of scenarios to test the waters on this one. You could live in Vietnam, because I know Vietnam, the wife's Vietnamese, for about $14,000 to $16,000 a year for a family of 4. So if you own your property in Australia and you're just renting it out, whatever, pay your taxes to the government, you can live in Vietnam, you can retire immediately. That's the sort of thing, how easy it is to live overseas. And that's not even being like a multimillionaire. That's an everyday working class person. Even if you, let's say you've half paid off your house, the surplus on the rental side of things is enough to survive in another country. So why stay in Australia? And that's what a lot of people say, oh, tax the rich. They just don't get it, because it's now getting to the point where if someone wants to leave the country, boom, you're out. Look, it's not hard.
Socialism doesn't work.
Yep.
And we shouldn't have even got to this point where people who of well means or wealthy are even having to consider this. We should be inviting or creating an environment where these people can function and do what they want to within the Australian borders.
So this is one thing that I've been toying with this idea, and I haven't told you. I wanted to have a chat to you about this later.
Oh, we'll just do it
just so the people
publicly
know.
Now.
Do we have time? Let's see. We're 33 minutes in, so we probably should wrap up. But I want to see what people's opinion is on this one, because I have lived overseas for a fair while now. I've come back to Australia to help with the studio. If someone could show you, what I'm kind of thinking of doing is, I've got properties in Vietnam, allowing people to go over there, Airbnb it at a discounted rate, because I know that I keep coming back with them forwards, and then coming back to Australia, having sort of like 2 rental properties. So they go over there, come back, work for a couple of months, then head back over to Vietnam. Is that something that people would be genuinely interested in, to get out of the rat race that is Australia? I'd love to know if there's an actual product or an item that they would like to explore on that one. So the people listening at home, if you have thought of like, you know what, Australia sucks ass, I want to start looking at overseas. Would you be interested in seeing different ways to be able to, first of all, get overseas, and secondly, how to fund it while you're over there? Because remember, if you're an Australian living in another country, you don't get all your government welfare subsidies and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be self-funded.
And I think look,
a lot of caveats on that one.
There's a lot of caveats. You've got to get advice on that. But what I would like to point out is that the fact that you are considering these kind of options.
Do you know why?
Why?
Obviously, I drive Uber. I think it's hilarious. It's a great source of promotion and advertising. The amount of people that have asked us, how did I offshore? How did I get offshore? And how did I fund myself while I was over there? I'm blown away by how many people are like absolutely pissed off with this, right? To the point where they're happy to walk away from jobs, houses, and all that sort of stuff just to get out. And this isn't like really, really wealthy people. This is everyday people working at like McDonald's, Hungry Jacks. Other Uber drivers are dumbfounded that I'm able to do what I'm doing on an Uber income. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many different.
But you also have learned how to generate an income. Through the internet.
Thank you, Derek.
Right, and I think that's really important. That's the difference, because you've walked out with a bit of confidence going forward that you didn't have 5 years ago. I think that's fair to say.
Where you were talking about the finance and all that before, I think knowledge, understanding the system you're in, and understanding the system that you're going to is absolutely crucial.
And how to generate an income from that's absolutely critical. So, you know, it was highlighted during the whole lockdown period. Those businesses that were vulnerable as well, and your brick and mortar businesses were, the physicality of it. The online ones thrived because they had more people focused on screens and bored and
working from home.
And in addition to that, had government paychecks to help with those funds, and they had surplus money to, well, let's dabble in this and dabble in that, or spend it on this. So getting to a point where you have other income sources is absolutely critical if you're ticked off with the system, a fallback plan or something. And that takes a while to develop, a transition. If you want to, you know, if you're full-time dependent on that employment income, you've got to start planning it and learning the skills as you go. And
also the Australian tax code is, I would argue, is more complicated than the American. I know there's 78,000 pages or something, but we got more taxes than what they have. They've got a lot of exclusions that you have to go through. Again, ultra important. You talk to a professional about this, but you kind of like need to know where you are first and where you want to get to, and then use the professionals to fill in the gaps.
If you have a personal resident in Australia, you definitely want to get, your own home. You've got to get advice before you even make the decision to go overseas and that sort of stuff, because there are tax implications and all of that.
Yep. So anyway, I think today's been an absolute hilarious show. So for the people listening, I would love you all to any comments that you have, put into the chat. We can get to them later. Also, if you want to talk to us while we're in the studio, the YouTube channel is the best way to get the comments through to us. The Edge Radio Facebook page is pretty good as well. The personal pages don't really work that well with the live comments. So anyway, on that one, I think that's a wrap. Anything else to add, Derek?
No, thank you. It's been great to have a chat.
Awesome. So this has been Edge Radio Australia with a special guest, Derek Whitaker, the man, the myth, the legend. He's got a new website, blueskyfactory.com. It is there on the screen because that so works on radio. So BLU skyfactory.com. Check it out. It's an awesome, good, sexy website. And as I understand, you wrote it yourself.
I did. Coded
Well
it myself.
Yay! Go, Derek. All right. Anyway, so that is us. That is a wrap, and we will see you guys next Monday at 1. And